I was told, I wasn't really told, just for me missing those 2 days, I got withdrew from my class.
What?
Yeah, because he said I've had an excessive amount of absence, like week attendance.
All right, now who withdrew you?
It was for common, world literature.
Okay, is it live stream?
No, but I ended up figuring it out. He re-enrolled me, but he said that I had missing more than I had potential for.
Dr. Sneed, I was just talking to him. He was complaining that he had 20 students, one class, one had their homework. I told him I had 22 in accounting last week, and two had their homework. Uh, but guys, I'm saying this to you and any student. Your grades go with you to your grave for job applications and whatever else you want to do in life. Uh, Dr. Sneed doesn't think live stream works. Well, it's always better to have students in class. I've always said I liked it back when I had all the students there and the chalkboard. And we had an overhead projector. And for my accounting principal class, I had transparency. You had to have a transparency to put on that overhead projector. So that's how I would show the solutions in class or write them on the board. But live streaming, web-based class, it's here to stay. I think Liberty University, which Mr. Imo coordinates some accounting classes online. I mean, they have 40 or 50,000 students now. Half of them are web students. Phoenix University offers all kinds of degrees on the web. Uh, so any of the colleges around here, whether it's Marshall, West Virginia, web classes. Now, there's in class, there's web class. Live streaming is in between. I think it's better than a web class. You can at least watch a lecture. Some of these web classes, the instructor just throws company PowerPoints on there and gives you assignments. They can throw tests on there where the computer grades it. I taught a accounting principal class one time, and I gave assignments, I gave PowerPoint, but I'd also give some illustrations how to work problems. Uh, but live streaming, students procrastinate. Maybe they don't watch them. I can go into Moodle and see who watched live stream. Uh, but I don't know what to say to him. I like live streaming better than I do a full blown web class. At least you can give a normal lecture and have some students. But anyhow,
Did you get those emails from Connolly? He said he forwarded our conversation to you. My conversation with him to you.
what he did,
That's what he said.
what email? I probably got it.
Yeah. I was wondering if you read any of them.
I probably got it. Now, is that the literature teacher?
Yeah.
So you had the same trouble Jonathan did?
Well, I missed a little.
It was like every day it snowed, we didn't go because we went home after class, after this class.
Well, did you get dropped?
Yeah, well, no, I'm back in it, but we had a little bickering battle back and forth.
It was
Yeah.
Well,
something else.
I like attendance, but I've always said too, some students can learn in spite of the instructor. They can learn in spite of coming or not coming to class.
We do all the work online.
Yeah.
Only reason we go into class is we have to like bring notes from the discussion we have to do online, and we talk about it in class. That's all it is. So I mean, and right now it's too late to switch into the online class. That way we don't have to go to class.
Was he teaching the online class?
He has like an online class and he has an in class. Both of them do all the work online. It's just the in class comes in Tuesday and Thursday and talks about the discussion.
Hmm.
And the way he talked, there was like no way that we could go ahead and switch into the online class, so we don't have to go to the discussions.
Hmm. Well, next time, is it lit 1 or 2? You have to take lit 2?
It's just we have to take one or the other.
Yeah.
So.
Hmm.
And that's for, that was, what is it, the basics? Just to get a degree in business. The basics.
Yeah, I had to take literature, and my professor was an alcoholic. Sometimes he showed up, sometimes he didn't. But I had to take a couple of strange classes. I'd take normal classes like history, psychology, math and stuff. But I had to take a class called logic. And I don't even remember what else was in it, but we had to study about Plato and Socrates. And what class is that in up here?
That's world literature.
Huh?
That's world literature.
Is it in literature?
I mean, we're actually doing that now with Socrates and all.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why I studied Plato and Socrates. Logic, and I don't know what I studied. but it's a course in logic. Anyway, all these other courses supposed to make you well-rounded. I had a appreciation of music class. I had to be able to identify Beethoven, I guess, Bach, whoever. The Fifth Symphony, I remember something about that. But I had to take that. Then I had to take art appreciation. And our exam was 50 slides on the screen. We had to identify who painted them. Well, the most easy one, you've heard of Michelangelo's Sixtine Chapel on the ceiling of that chapel. That was easy to identify. But I had 49 others I had to memorize. So I still wonder why I had to take art, history, and music appreciation. Some other things in biology, history of our country, grammar, composition, that is, speech. Speech is the one I dreaded so bad.
We took it last semester. It wasn't as bad as we made it out to be. I guess.
Did you take it online?
Yeah, the class was online, and then we met like 4 times just for the presentation.
Did you have people there when you gave a speech?
It wasn't many. I think the maximum that was there at one time was like 10 or 12.
Yeah. But he picked out, we had to give a humorous speech or a sales pitch speech, or it was a different kind of speech all the time. I gave a speech on how I quit smoking. I may have told you all this in principles, and threw in some funny things there, how I crave nicotine and all that. And at the end of it, he asked me, he said, "You were being nervous really went along with you quitting smoking and making it humorous." And I said, he said, "That was good acting." I said, "That wasn't acting. I was nervous." He said, "Well, I was going to give you an A, but I'm going to knock that down to a B." So I knocked myself out of a letter grade on that speech. But that was hard to do. In high school, I think I did one thing, and it was in literature also. Julius Caesar, I had to quote something. And I was nervous when I did that. And the only other time I talked in class was giving those speeches in speech class. But then I became president of Buchanan County Education Association. And I had to get up and talk in front of all the teachers in the county. Some of my old English teachers were out there, and I was just hoping I wouldn't make too bad a mistake, because they were probably out there critiquing me and my talking. So I learned to talk to anybody, anytime. I had to give a little tax seminar for the whole staff at the community college when they changed W-4s and some kind of withholding. So, and even the president was there, so I got used to it. What have you. But anyway, we were on a chapter of credits. Now, your computer is going to compute child tax credit for you. Your computer's gonna even calculate earned income credit. It's gonna calculate alternative minimum tax credit. If they had anything to do with energy credits, they will ask you, these people will tell you. Now, in West Virginia, you're already familiar with the senior citizen credit and homestead credit. Now, some little teacher in there the other night reminded me that West Virginia teachers, to get one, gets a $2,000 extra credit or exemption or something. I believe West Virginia might give some kind of credit for military, public employees. We'll see. We'll run across. Well, teachers are public employees. The state of Virginia just exempts your Social Security. Now, if you itemize for federal, you can itemize state. And it's still the way it is. If you can't itemize for federal, you can't itemize for state.
If you draw Social Security, do you have to file?
Jonathan, there are so many scenarios to that question. Some of these little people, you get in there, not only they draw Social Security, but they got 1099-Rs from some big retirement fund. Yeah, you have to file that.
But what if it's just Social Security?
If it's just Social Security, I don't think they shouldn't have filed. Not at all. First off, Social Security is exempt if you're single under 25,000. Married filing is only 32. And then a portion thereafter, up to 50%. Now, a lot of people will pay on 80% of their Social Security. I never did like that. I think, Social Security was a tax on wages you made. Now you get back Social Security and you're paying tax on it again. But I don't know of anybody, Jonathan, making married filing jointly over $32,000 a year in Social Security. And they take those hags and everything out. Now, if you have a couple in there and they're both getting about $20,000 a year Social Security, yeah, put it in the computer, see what it does. If you have a single person getting under 25, don't worry about it. Don't even file for it. So, Social Security, I don't know what the max is. It may be $2,700 a month. If it was $3,000 a month, that'd be $36,000. Put it in the computer and see. Not too many people reach that limit to get full Social Security. So forth. It's based on different things, different ways. Some people retire when they're 62. They make a mistake, then they want to work. If they work and they're drawing Social Security at 62, Social Security Administration wants back $1. I think it's $1 for every 3 you make. So pretty soon you're in bad a shape as was not working. So, but now if you reach a full retirement age, for you guys, it'd probably be 67 almost. You retire at 67, you can make as much money as you want to and not pay any of it back to Social Security. So, but
You pass retirement?
yeah, I started drawing Social Security, and because I work, of course, you automatically get one Medicare. If you take a Medicare Part B, it's supposed to be about $145 a month, but because I'm working, they take out more than double that on me. It's about $300 some a month. Because I'm working, I'm getting penalized. And they're giving me a Part D, which I don't even use. I'm paying about $50 a month for it. So I'm paying about 3 times as much for Medicare as I should be. So, but that's okay. I prefer working and so on, what have you. All right, so a bunch of credits. Now, I want to, real quickly, not going to go over any of the problems on credits. When you get a chance, work the even problems. We may get to some of them sometime. But I can't spend a lot more time on this chapter because we got 2 or 3 other chapters to cover. You can look over the alternative minimum tax and the credit. You know what the self-employment tax is. And you know a credit is better than an itemized deduction. And trying to see what kind of credit. I just glanced at. Non-refundable personal tax credit, child dependent care credit. We've seen that. And the table. We talked about education. Now, the lifetime learning credit you can get as long as you want to go to college. But the basic credit is 4 years.
So do you take your American Opportunity Tax Credit for 4 years?
Well, it used to be 2 years. Now Clinton started that, and I thought it was a good credit. Now, I'm on that page 1414. Unlike the AOTC, taxpayers are allowed a credit for up to $2,500 for qualified tuition-related expenses paid during the taxable year. And it goes on, blah, blah. It can be taken for each eligible student. Okay, I'm trying to find, if you look down that second paragraph from 1414 under credits, you will take that for 4 years. Okay. Trying to see those paid for the 4 years. All right. Post-secondary education. Then you take the lifetime learning. Well, I believe it's $2,500 for the first 4 years, and you basically get down to $2,000 on the lifetime learning. Those are good credits. Your parents can take those credits for you if you don't need them, or if you're, not claiming yourself, so forth. All right. Residential energy credit, I wanted to refer you to page 17. Now, page 17, labor costs to install the property are included in the qualified cost of the property. Now, let's see. No. Residential energy efficiency property credit. Trying to find the basics on that, and I haven't done that yet. Still on education credit. Got a lot of dates on this energy credit. I was trying to find some things, so I'm just going to wean it. If we went through here and looked for what applies, if you put in new energy-proof windows, you could take some credits. And if you use an alternative source of energy, like geothermal, some people have houses and they put something underground to get heat from, and maybe even a windmill and different things. Now, they've cut down on that energy credit. It's not as good as it used to be, but you can read that. A little bit of foreign tax credit. I just printed off a 1099. Now, folks, I printed off a 1099 from Wells Fargo, where I've got some investments there. And that 1099 is 12 pages long. It goes through all these buying and selling and transactions where, the manager does. It shows you on every page cost basis and selling and gains, dividends. So it's got maybe a page of dividends and different pages of long-term, different pages of short-term. But I'm printing mine off this morning. I noticed I paid about $16 for an income tax, which I could take off as a credit. So just noticing that reminded me. All right, now some business related credits. So keep this in mind. Tax credit for rehabilitation expenditures. Congress provides a credit for investment in the rehabilitation of older industrial and commercial buildings and certified. Now the credit equals 20% of the qualified rehabilitation. Now, the following additional provisions apply. For certified historical structures, and they have to use straight line depreciation and so forth. So you can rehabilitate an old structure and possibly get some credits for it. All right, business energy tax credits. But now the one I want to mention is on page 20, work opportunity credit. For the years 15-19, we're still there. Employers who hire individuals belong to target groups may elect the work opportunity tax credit. The credit equals 40% of qualified first year wages up to $6,000. So 40% of $6,000 is $2,400. It may be more in qualified target groups. Group A, veterans, ex-cons, designated community residents, vocational rehabilitation referrals, summer youth programs. All right. Now, did you all have any kind of work program? Jonathan, you went to Graham, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you all have any kind of work program there?
Like where you could work. Yeah, they had it. It was like, I don't remember what the class was called.
You had that marketing, which
Yeah,
was
it was
called
marketing.
distributive education.
And then they called it marketing co-op.
Yeah, the marketing co-op.
And that's where you could work. You had to make so much and work so many hours to get credit for the class.
Yeah.
Then if you did that, the marketing teacher required you to participate in DECA.
Yeah, okay. I didn't require mine. I taught marketing, but I didn't require mine to participate in DECA. But you see, I had a marketing 1, 10th grade, marketing 2, 11th, marketing 3, 12. My marketing 2 and marketing 3 had to work in a retail business. I had some of them at grocery stores, some of them at restaurants, and so on. And that's where I got the extra 2 or 3 months in the summer when I didn't have anything to do hardly. Go around maybe and check with their supervisor. And you know, my hours at school was 8:30 to 12. I was finished at 12. So I had an office at school, and I could go out and check on my students. I'm not supposed to be released at 3:30. So anytime I got out after 12 o'clock and ran up and down the road, I got gas mileage for it. And I had a good setup. One time I taught taxes at night for community college. Community college paid me. But one of the other marketing coordinators in the county took the class for recertification. He was getting paid for setting up the class so much per hour, and he was learning taxes. So he got a triple whammy out of that class. He got paid, he took it, he learned, and so forth. But there's a requirement for us to do to set up some adult education classes. Anyway, I stayed in that program probably, and I went to Virginia Tech and got certified, and took their marketing classes for that particular program. And then I was called to be assistant principal and left it. But I was competitive in DECA, Jonathan. You know how Virginia did. You had 5 districts, and you had 5 vice presidents. You didn't have a president over DECA in the state of Virginia. So I had 2 different years. They were the vice president of DECA in the state of Virginia, Western District. And I had 2 student of the year. Now that one student of the year, she just retired. She just retired. She was my 6th grade student. She was my 10th, 11th, 12th grade student. She just retired from being a Supreme Court judge, state of Virginia. She's going to go work for Grundy Law School. My other student, she got Virginia Small Business One of the Year, and DECA put her on their recruitment poster there for 2 or 3 years before you were in it. And she started a bunch of jewelry stores in Roanoke, Christiansburg, Galax. I used to go to one of her stores and buy all my wife's jewelry and so on, because she'd give me a good deal on it. But so I had some good students in DECA, but I had those two outstanding students and so forth. But that's the best job in the public schools, guys. Not teaching, not assistant principal, but teaching 3 marketing classes and getting released at 12 o'clock and have your office there at school. Principal didn't know what you were doing. Didn't know anything about marketing, but that was the best job in the public school. You got paid for 12 months, you got gas mileage, you got paid for setting up adult classes. And when I went to Tech got certified, the old guy from Graham, his name was Bob Gillenwater. He went to Tech and got certified with me. So Bob Gillenwater was long gone, probably before you took that. He probably retired a long time ago. Yeah. I'm sure a couple of coordinators there had heard, or somebody, younger teachers, I'm sure had heard of him. But
the only 2 teachers I know of, Mr. Trump, he claimed that he was related to Donald.
related to who?
Donald Trump.
Oh.
I thought, if you're related to him, what do you? But I mean,
well, one thing, Donald Trump's not going to take care of all his relatives. Now, some people also will be ashamed to be related to Donald Trump, you know. And some may be proud of it.
The other one was, they brought her, like a night class at Bluefield College.
Yeah. So, well, but anyway, the Civic Education, it's a co-op program. And they used to have, for the secretaries, they had co-op, an office secretarial type co-op thing. We have the internships. So now that credit, folks, work opportunity credit, and Group B, a recipient of benefits under long-term family assurance. Group C is veterans with a related disability. Group D, veterans with 6 months or more of unemployment. And Group E, veterans with a service-related disability hired within 1 year, blah, blah. But you see, we're trying to take care of the veterans. Because a person's in a wheelchair doesn't mean he can't work, he can't think. Okay? The accounting instructor up here before me, Bradbury, he was in a wheelchair, accounting instructor. I guess it made it unhandy for him sometimes, blackboards. And these podiums probably would have to be built lower for him if he were still here. So, but I met him at a conference at Virginia Tech. We both went to a tax conference. Okay, so look over that work opportunity credit. It's not bad if the employer can get a credit for what he pays you. Plus, he gets to take off salary expense off his income. So he gets a double whammy out of it. Disability excess credit over on page 21. A non-refundable tax credit is available for eligible small business for expenditures incurred to make the facilities accessible. All right? How many businesses have you went in lately that have a ramp? Now, let's take this building right here. Does a person in a wheelchair have to get up these steps out front? Go down here, roll your wheelchair up a ramp, go down to the elevator. And all in a wheelchair.
You have to have like your student ID or anything to get in that door?
No. No, I park out here sometimes, and you can open one door or you can press that handicap access when it opens.
So does that door lock when the door's locked up?
Probably. Yeah, when they lock the building, it probably locks. But now somebody's parked down there right now, and he's taking up every spot down there because he parked long way. Somebody in a gray pickup, I don't think he knows what he's doing. But I don't think he took the handicap. Now, You paint handicap, little blue lines. You make ramps. You may have to install an elevator. As I told you, you may have to lower water coolers. But to make places handicap accessible. Now, Connolly Hall up there, can you get in that building without going up steps? You have to go through security little hole down there?
You could do that, or it's like, you go up, then you go around to the back side, there's a little back door that you can go in.
All right, but business structures, that's what they mean. Elevators, walks, ramps.
No, that elevator up there is kind of scary.
Yeah. Some of these are sketchy. This one gets sketchy sometimes. So, disability access.
It's like the newest building on campus.
Now that's your pretty big ones right there, though, for the employer.
Is this building the newest building on campus?
Not a new building, but it's probably been the newest renovated. Now they may have renovated maybe some rooms in a couple other buildings, or put some furniture over there in the science building.
Has
Well-
this building always been here since you've been here?
Jonathan, this building was here when I was here in '79. Now, in '79, I taught part-time here, and I was in this building. You had these big posts in the middle of your classroom, and it was not insulated. That train felt like it was running through your podium. All right, so when I got on here full-time then, we had offices up in Conley when they were remodeling this. And I can remember the dean downstairs, he asked me not to leave because I got a good offer from the community college. He asked me not to leave. He would give me my choice of an office down here. But now that was in '79. Okay, then I come back up here, 30 something years later, and they were modeling this building again. So this makes me 9 years here. So I've been in this building 8 years. My first year back, I was up in Conley again until they remodeled this. And then I come down and picked an office. And we have extra offices downstairs in the basement. Got a couple empty ones on this floor. I don't know about the third floor, but we always got plenty of extra offices. A lot of people like the first floor, like Coach and Michelle, Dr. Sneed, Dr. Bourne. That's where you get all the traffic, so I always prefer the second floor or the third. So, but when they did it this time, Jonathan, they did it better. You don't hear the train noise as much. You don't have the post in the middle of your classroom. So it's done a lot better. This equipment, though, has been here 9 years. Now, some of the things they've done up here with the Surface Pro is a little different.
I know in like the computer lab upstairs at the very end, I don't know what room it is, but it's on that end, that computer lab, it still has like the computer built into the desk, I'm pretty sure.
Built into the desk?
Yeah, it's like it's like the frame for it's coming out of the desk, like attached to the desk.
Huh. I don't even like those computer rooms, whereas your desk is down in the glass screen. I'm not too crazy about that either. Anyhow.
What is that? It's where the desk is down to the glass screen. What is that supposed to be like?
I don't know, probably a secret if you were trying to protect taxes. But anyway, I was trying to look at a couple other credits that we don't hear about too much. And we're going to leave this chapter as soon as I can. We got these personal credits and we got these business credits. The biggest business credit is energy. and disability access and remodeling historical structures. All right, now on page 24, health insurance premiums assistant credit, also known as premium tax credit. All right, that is a new one. I'm gonna have to let you read it. I'll look over it myself, see what kind of credit we can get for health insurance premium. I'm sure that's a business credit. Now, payment of taxes on page 26 and withholding of taxes. Okay, a lot of people like to get back a big refund. Then IRS has had your money all year interest free. If you like to pay IRS a big lot, you may have to pay them interest, but it's not bad. I started working on mine yesterday, and before I enter some capital gains and dividends, I'm already up to an IRS 6,000. So I'm just hoping I'll get by under 10, and then the state maybe 1 or 2. And they could actually penalize me for not paying estimated taxes, but they never do. Okay. Withholding taxes, we know what that's all about and what have you. Now, estimated taxes, if you were self-employed, you should make those quarterly. Now, have you all had anybody that owes taxes and they print out vouchers for next year for them to pay estimated taxes? Have you not had that yet? You will have before the semester's over. It prints out vouchers. Now, if you had somebody that let's say owed a couple of thousand this year, it will print out, your payment voucher. That's not what I'm talking about. Then it will print out 4 vouchers for next year's estimated taxes. That person should be paying estimated taxes. So they pay one by April 15th.
Will that be in with that packet?
Yeah, it will print it out. And by May I believe June the 1st one, and then the fall, and then December, whatever. But there's 4 payment days. All right, I used to keep up with those. I don't anymore. All right, now we're going to go back a minute to, we got to cover 12, 11, and 13. All right, so let's look at page 11.3. And this is what I wanted to start on today. So, all right, counting periods. We know a calendar year is January 1 until December 31. That's an accounting period. We know a fiscal year, all right? We know the fiscal year can run from, let's say, 3/1 to 2/28. In other words, 3/1, let's say 19, to 2/28, all right, that'd be February 28th. It would run 2020, wouldn't it? All right. So that is your fiscal year, which you know all about that. Now, there are some short. Now, if I was starting a business on the third week in December, and I want to do a calendar year, I just wait a year later. So that's probably called a 53-week year. You dig in here close on your taxes. All right, now if you're going to change your accounting period, you got to fill out a form. Now for this one right here, for returns for periods of less than 12 months, don't have to worry about it. Usually, if I start a corporation in May and want to December, I can. That's less than 12 months. If I start a proprietorship or a partnership, I can end it in less than 12 months. Now, if I change from a partnership to a corporation, may have less than 12 months in both of them. All right, the next big category in this chapter. Now, what we're doing in this chapter, we're reviewing a lot of things you already know. All right, such as accounting methods. You see, we're going through chapter 7 pretty fast because it's got accounting periods. And you know about the fiscal year and the calendar year. And we'll look at some short years but now, you know these accounting methods. You know the cash receipts method. You know the accrual method. And you know a combination of the two methods is a hybrid method. Well, let's get the hybrid method, C there out of the way. That is, your accounts receivable and accounts payable are on the accrual basis, and everything else is the cash basis. All right, now these two methods, though, you have learned about them for accounting purposes. But now, in accounting purposes, let's say we prepay insurance expense for 3 years. Now, under accrual method, we know we can only take 1 year of that as an expense. But what does IRS say about the cash basis? And certain receipts of income. Well, somebody pays us attorney fees 3 years in advance. Do we have to count it on the cash basis all in 1 year? So there's a few differences we got to look at. So cash receipts and disbursements method. I want you to look at this heading here. Capitalization requirement for cash-based taxpayer. You still have to depreciate. You still have to amortize, and you still have to deplete. Capitalization means depreciation, amortization, and depletion. You still have to. All right? And you still can take 179, all right, expenses, even as an individual, cash basis. Now the accrual basis, and we'll look at some exceptions here in a minute. You know, everything we learn in accounting, 99.9% of what we learn in accounting is accrual basis. It's understood if you can learn the accrual basis, you've got sense enough to do the cash basis. Now, if I were doing a small trucking company, which I have, I'd use the cash basis. And since I use the cash basis, they'd go out and buy about $3,000 or $4,000 worth of tires in December, pay cash. Now, whether they put them on the trucks or not, they pay cash. I took it off as an expense on their tax return. You know, small accounting practice, the plumber, the appliance repairman, any of those probably use cash basis. Doctors that used to use the cash basis, they never had a bad debt. Now, if you have cash basis, you don't have bad debt expense, you don't have adjusting interest. You don't have adjusting interest for taxes payable, wages payable, unearned revenue. You have no adjusting interest, except you still can take depreciation. All right. So, the accrual method, you can look over this all advanced tests and the economic performance, and we know we've had enough accounting to know what the accrual basis is. On that same page, at the bottom of page 11-9, the all events test has to be met, economics performance. The item is reoccurring in nature. The taxpayer is not You're not trying to use it as a tax shelter, and you can use the accrual basis of accounting. And I mentioned the hybrid method, okay? Now, there are going to be some exceptions to some things when we get to it. Now, inventories, quickly look at those this period. Now, what methods have you learned in inventory? So, can you name a couple? What have you learned? What methods? All right, Cole, can you remember? How about FIFO?
Yeah.
And LIFO? All right. How about the weighted average? All right, now you can use those three methods under perpetual or periodic. How about gross profit? Gross profit method? And how about, I think there was a retail method. So, and there was also what they call it, Pacific invoice method. The inventory for that vehicle is what you pay for that vehicle. The inventory for that diamond is what you pay for that diamond. You're not using first in, first out on a bunch of diamonds in a jewelry store. You'd want to use Pacific cost. Okay, now inventories. First off, we can use the hybrid method. We'll see what that is. Now, if you select LIFO or FIFO, you stay with it. You're going to have IRS permission to change. Just like if you're on the cash basis, permission to change to the accrual. If you're on a 12-month basis, calendar year, you got to have permission to change the fiscal year. So you got to have forms and permission for all these things. Now, I believe I mentioned this before. We don't do much with a form and return in taxes. A form and return is really a business return. You got an income statement on it. You got a balance sheet on it. Now, the hard thing, I've done some form and returns, and the hardest thing about them is the inventory. If they've got 10 cows that they went out and bought and paid for, then they've got 10 cows in inventory. Okay. Now, if they raised some of their own cows or had them there, they got them in inventory, but they may not have any basis. If they were born on your property, you've already taken feed expense, maybe bed expense, and so forth for these new cattle, calves going into cattle. So you have to be careful with the farming. Okay, determination of inventory cost. Now, I did mention lower of cost or market. IRS likes lower of cost or market. Now, in your book somewhere, do you have a Schedule C? A Schedule C is it in the back of your book? There's a bunch of them back there, folks. Schedule C is a small business return, proprietorship. I'm just trying to find one too, so if you find one, let me know. I found 1125A, which is
B22.
B22. All right, that's a sole proprietorship. All right, let's look at B22, and I wanted you to look at a couple of things on this page. Well, I don't know how I got back up here. I must have pulled around and hit something here, guys. Let's see. I have no idea what happened. It won't even click back up there. I'm going to minimize this and see if I got it there. Hey, there it is. It was already up, but the other one came up. Okay, anyway, wanted to show you here. If you do a Schedule C, or if it's a corporation or partnership, you got some of these same questions. Now, look at F here. F is what? Accounting what? And which one is your first one? And your second one? And that would take care of a hybrid, wouldn't it? All right, now let's look at inventory. All right, I want you to look at the inventory. I'm gonna have to set my thing on top of my book. Well, I'm gonna have to try to zoom this to get it where I want it. That's not zooming it, is it?
Go,
Huh?
go
Here?
Yeah.
Not doing anything either. It zoomed it last week. I'll play with that later. Okay. Now, can I zoom here? Wait a minute, maybe I can zoom even here.
That's the right.
No, Lord, maybe that's awful. Yeah. I thought that was zoomed. What do you see, Jonathan? That's clear. One of those doodads supposed to zoom.
I don't think the whole screen's working at all.
Yeah, up there.
Like the screen's frozen.
It may be. It's okay, we'll make that, but that is a zoom that you had up there.
Well, the whole computer's froze.
Huh?
Your computer's
Really?
froze. What's I do?
Yeah, minimize that.
Oh, we're back to this. Yeah, this is froze.
We won't worry about it. I'll be cutting it off in a minute. So maybe I can show you what I wanted to show you. Now this is supposed to zoom, Jonathan, and
Yeah,
that's just bright. That's focus. I don't even know what that is.
You could do it.
Yeah, you can always go down closer, can't you?
Yeah, just
That'll help a little bit. Okay. Well, there's a will, there's a way. So what I wanted to show you, methods used to value your inventory. It's on all business form, corporation, proprietorship, partnership. Now, what's your first choice? Cost. Well, if I were a car dealership, I'd use the cost of all my cars. If I was in a jewelry store, I'd use the cost of all my jewelry. But, you know, if you were selling shovels at Lowe's, doesn't matter. You paid $5 for the first shovel and $7 for the second group you bought. Don't matter, does it? That's where you could use other and use FIFO or LIFO. Okay, FIFO or LIFO. And if you had to use the retail method or gross profit method, put a good explanation. Now, what's your second choice here? Lower of?
Lower of cost or more.
Now, you see, that's the easiest method in the chapter on inventory. FIFO and LIFO and average special is much harder. Lower of cost to market is common sense. If cost was $10 and market was $9, if you didn't know the lower one of the two, you were hurting. All right, you shouldn't even include yourself in the business world anywhere. Okay. So anyway, inventory. Now back in your chapter on inventory, back to chapter 11 and back to page 1111. Now, when you get to page 12, they mention LIFO and so forth. Now, they also mention inventory. What do you add to inventory? Now, when I was in the used car lot, if I had to, if I went ahead and had that car serviced before I sold it, if I put a sticker on it, if I put a new tire on it or anything, I'd add that to the cost of that car. So you definitely add cost to inventory. And some of the things they're talking about here. Here at the bottom of the page. All right, factory repairs, utilities, rent, insurance. We know that's materials, labor, and overhead. Factory administrative and officer salaries related to this production. That's factory supervisor. Taxes on this inventory. Quality control and inspection is part of the cost. Rework and scrap. All right, current and past service cost and service support. So all these things add on to the value of inventory. And your particular company will know what they're adding on to the value of inventory, okay? Guaranteed. Anyway, page 11, 12. Then we mentioned LIFO. And on page 14, we'll look at some of these specifics later. Market, cost to market, and cycle inventory valuation. Now, special items in accounting. Now, I know you've had this, long-term contracts. Have you had that in intermediate yet? Under revenue and installment sales method. You might not have had that in intermediate, but I want you to look at page 1116. Have you all not heard, Jonathan, of the completed contract method, percentage of completion method? You have not? Well, you'll get to it before you get out of intermediate this semester. We may have touched on it in principles, but not too much. The cash basis, you get $1,000 cash reported as income. Accrual basis, you haven't got that cash yet, reported as accounts receivable. But here we're looking at the installment method and the percentage completed method. Now, look at this first method on page 16. Completed contract method. Okay. We hired somebody to build a dorm over there. We hired somebody to build a dorm. It's going to take 3 years. What?
Just like completely build it?
I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Let's say it takes 3 years. Now, the completed contract method means you would not recognize any money from that dorm until it was completed. There's flaws in that. So now look at page 16. Under completed contract method of accounting, income from a contractor is reported in the taxable year in which the contract is completed. It may only be used in 2 limited circumstances. The method can be used by smaller companies, those whose average gross receipts for the 3 preceding years is $25 million or less. Completed contract method. Now, look down to percentage of completion. All right. Now, let's say I was 40% complete. I recognize 40% of the revenue and 40% of the expenses. So, under percentage of completion method of reported, the taxpayer reports a percentage of the gross income from a long-term contract based on the portion of work that has been completed. Now, when you get to intermediate, you'll go through the figures a lot better in intermediate than what taxes does. Modified percentage of completion method. Now, I want you to look down at a couple of examples they have. Example 21. A contractor enters in a contract to construct a bridge for $1,004,000. at the outset, the contractor estimate will have cost $1.2 million. Now, what's his gross profit going to be? $1.4 million, $1.2 million. What's his gross profit?
160,000.
It'd be 200,000, wouldn't it? Our actual cost in 2018 are 540,000. Now divide 540,000. Golly, let's see how this is going to work. Divide 540,000 by $1.2 million. See what that is. Divide 540,000 by $1.2 million. 540,000 divided by $1.2 million is that 45%. All right, so we completed 45% according to our expenses, right? Now, total estimated cost. Now, actual costs in 2018 are less than expected and amount to 600. Actual costs in 2019 are 600. The profits reported in both years are as follows. All right. Revenue in 2018, you got nothing. 2019, you got the whole $1.4 million. Now we know our expenses for those 2 years, so we got a gross profit of $260. Now look, continuing on page 17, revenue received of $630, we subtract $540, and then we receive $770, we subtract 6. Now that is the percentage of contract method. All right, now the next topic, and we'll get back to those, installment method on page 17. Now, folks, I'm going to have to read this chapter, try to do a few problems on chapter 14 even, read this chapter. I'm going to have to assign some problems from this chapter and make sure you do a problem with each method so we can see what's going on. Now, the installment method. All right, now what this involves, and I've done this one before. All right, now you buy a piece of land, let's say for $10,000. Now you sell it for $14,000. What's your profit? You buy a piece of land for 10, you sell it for 14. What's your profit? 4,000. Now, should I report that whole 4,000 now, even though I gave it to the buyer on a contract method? Maybe I'm going to let him pay me $1,200 a month until it's paid off. $1,200 a month until it's paid off. Now, how much of that should I report as income? Maybe I'm going to let him pay me $500 a month until it's paid off. So he's paying me $500 a month, $6,000 a year. And $6,000 another year. And am I charging him interest? Now that's the installment method. You take a percent of your sales profit as gross profit each year. And then you get your payments each year and only count a part of it gross profit. So you're spreading your gross profit out over 2 or 3 years, the time of the payment, instead of counting it all in the year of sale. So read over that. We'll discuss it later. All right. There's some other things in here. Now, I am sure some of these TV and furniture dealers, they do a lot of installment sales. Maybe automobile companies do installment sales. All right. Then we got to look at accrual of interest, inputted interest. And they have an installment sales page in here we'll look at, and we'll call it a day today. So read chapter 11, start working with even problems in chapter 14. I don't know if this, it is frozen, Johnson, because it won't X out and it won't minimize. So I got to use the old task manager, I guess. It was frozen. Well, let me get out of it.